make money from them. But a business model is not a revenue model. So what makes a business model is not just where the money comes from, but also where the money goes. So what are the items of expenditures you should think about? First, of these customers, from a value proposition perspective, must make you actual money, revenue streams. But for every single revenue stream, there's a client-facing process. And for every single client-facing process, there is a cost associated with that. Novice entrepreneurs spend all of their time talking about where the revenue is going to come from. They spend very little time talking about how they're going to deliver that revenue, and almost no time talking about what is the cost to deliver that revenue. This is true even for content creators, because your time is worth something. Your time is worth something. If you just get these steps right, and you actually take the time and you go through them intentionally, you can build a business model. You can build a business model. When we're done, I'm going to give you guys a QR code that if you scan it, will take you to a questionnaire that you can run through all of these 7 parameters. It's 49 questions, 7 questions per section, and it's all of these 7 parameters, and at the end of it, it'll deliver for you your own business model. Then you actually do the work. So that's why I said, didn't come to impress, came to teach. So we want to be able to understand that scaling a business is a multifaceted thing. Here are 4 things you need to think about when you're scaling a business. First, whose job is it to ensure that the quality of focus is in the place, that the processes deliver that quality of focus, and that's internal. And external is whose job is it to ensure you build your team as well as you expand your markets. Let's get into that a little bit. We did some work in the firm to understand how many clients have actually scaled their business. And not just how many have scaled their business, but in addition to this, where do clients get stuck? And I'll show you very quickly. The first place clients get stuck in scaling their business is synthesizing their operations. Don't worry, I'll explain, and I will give you the templates and tools. Synthesizing their operations is simply this. It's writing the score for that performance article of music that you saw earlier. So I want to find the right way to say this. Today, here at the hotel, there was a young lady that came to my room. Not like that. But there was a young lady that came to my room and rang the doorbell circa 7 a.m. What do you think she was there for? Housekeeping. Why did she come at 7 a.m., not 11 a.m.? Why did she come at 7 a.m., not 4 a.m.? Because that's the rule. Somebody wrote down the rule that you do the rounds from 7 a.m. onwards. Any of you here who've ever been admitted to a hospital will know that every morning in the hospitals, in South Africa it's circa 7 a.m., it might be different here, but every morning at around 7 a.m., the doctors walk the wards and check on their patients. How does that happen in every single hospital, everywhere in the world? It's because those who run hospitals have written rules about how a hospital runs. They have synthesized their operations. So the question I'm asking you is, how many of you have taken the time to write the rules about how your business runs? Forget teaching someone how to do it. Just write it down, even for yourself. How does it run? Second, 43% of entrepreneurs implement growth drivers. Most businesses have 3 things that if you did them, you'd double your business. Think about what I just said here for a second. All of us here have a to-do list of 100 things. I'm willing to bet that there are 3 things that if you did them, you'd double your business. 3. But there's a to-do list of 100 things. So why do you have a to-do list of 100 things when 3 things are the real growth drivers? It's because not everything that is a to-do list is going to drive growth. So your job when you're building and scaling a business, is to figure out what are the things that are going to drive growth. In fact, I am a master at this. I am a master at this. I have mastered not doing work. Work is not my job. Growth is my job. Work is what I pay people to do. You wanted a job so you can work, I give you the work. My job is growth. 3 things. If you did them, your business would double. I'll use our business again as a good example. One of the things that we know that when we do, our revenue grows is if we publish something. So if I publish an article, publish a newsletter, or write a book. If I write a book, my revenue grows. We estimate by anywhere between 80 and 94%. All I've got to do is write a book. So I get to work every day. HR wants to see me, marketing wants to see me, finance wants to see me, then those people at internal audit want to see me, then protocol wants to see me, then so-and-so wants to see me. All of this is my to-do, but it's not going to help me write a book. Do you understand? So my job is to make sure that the machine can run and these people know what to do, so I can go and focus my time on doing the work that's going to grow the business. I'm asking you in this room, how many of you here are doing the work that grows the business? Not the work that needs to be done. Please, don't misunderstand me. There's work that has to get done. Then there's work that grows the business. These are not the same things. Now, if you don't get the work that needs to get done, your business will die. But if you don't do the work that grows the business, your business will also die. So what a lot of us do is you start a business, you get 2 or 3 customers. Now you are there, you are a customer service agent now. You are now servicing the customers rather than empowering people so that you can go and look for more customers. I can't tell you how important this is, especially for those of you in the room who are technical. Engineers, architects, accountants, lawyers, even the writers, the bloggers, the journalists. So many of us are guilty of this. The content creators, the worst at this. You create the content, then you're sitting there editing this thing yourself. You can't be serious. I have never created 1 second of content. Never. This is a true story. I've never picked up my phone and said I'm creating content. I've never done it. And I will never do it. There are people who are paid to do that. Then there are people who are paid to edit it. And then there are people who are paid to publish it. And then there are people who are paid to manage the comments once it's been published. It's not my job. It's work. So I'm simply making the point that in the job you're doing every day, just ask yourself the question, is this going to grow the business or just deliver the business? I'm cognizant of time. 3rd, build on insights. I wish I had more time to spend on this, but I don't. Build your business on insights, not instinct. Man, I wish I had more time to... I could do it just an entire masterclass just on this. You know when you started as an entrepreneur, because this is what makes us entrepreneurs? When we get started as entrepreneurs, we have instinct, right? Like a gut instinct. Like if I stand on Entebbe Road and I start selling a certain product, people are going to buy it. How do I know? I don't know. I didn't do market research. I just feel it in my guts. And I'm looking at all of these people going up and down, and I go, if I stood here and I sold something, people would buy it. It's my instinct. The problem is, then I stand there and I start selling it, and indeed people buy it, and now I'm making money, and then I come to a conference, and then people say, what do you do? And I go, I'm an entrepreneur. They go, really? I say, yeah. What do you do? I sell coffee on Entebbe Road. It's a great business. Then I go, but you know, I'm selling so much, I want to open a 2nd store, 3rd store, 4th store. Where do I open the stores? What do I do again? I follow my instinct. Terrible advice. You start a business on instinct. You scale a business on insight. Now, how can you scale on insight if you have no information? If you have no data? No sources from which you draw data and information? The answer is you can't. Which brings me to the point I'm trying to make. I said it to Lydia just now in our meeting. Please make a note of this in your head. Metric, METRIC, that matter. Just make a note of that. Metric that matter. Not everything that is measurable matters. Not everything that matters can be measured. So what you want to be able to do as an entrepreneur is to figure out what is the stuff that matters, and to focus your attention on measuring the things that matter. It might be that the thing that matters for you in your business is repeat customers. So how many of the customers that I sell to first time come back? It might be that the thing that matters for you in your business is how many customers come from different territories. From the hinterlands, for instance, of Kampala. How many customers come from outside of downtown? But you need to know what those metrics are. I'm willing to bet most of us in this room don't have 3 metrics that we measure that matter. I'm willing to bet. So I run by the rule of 3. What does that mean? Every function in the business that I need to measure, I measure no more than 3 things. But if we need to measure, for instance, our business and our business plan, it's revenue, EBITDA, cost of capital. Those are the 3 things I worry myself about. But if I need to measure our YouTube channel, which is now on 940,000 subscribers, we'll hit 1 million subscribers before the end of the year, what are the things that I measure my YouTube team on? So people think I measure my YouTube team on the number of subscriber growth. I actually don't. I measure my YouTube team on the number of minutes people watch our shorts. Listen to what I just said. Number of minutes people watch our shorts. Not number of minutes people watch our videos. The content creators know what I'm talking about. Because we've learned that what drives subscribers is the number of minutes people watch on shorts. It's that video when you're on YouTube and you watch 30 seconds and you swipe up. It's that TikTok version, right? That's the stuff we do. You want to know why? Because I know the more minutes people watch on shorts, the more subscribers I get. The more subscribers I get, the more minutes they view. The more minutes I view, the more money I make. So I'm not measuring the money coming from my YouTube. I'm measuring the number of minutes people watch my shorts. I'm measuring the input, not the outcome. 3 simple metric. I'm challenging you to go into your business and to find the 3 simple metric that if you did them, these are the things that your business would grow. And then lastly, you have to align incentives. This is so key. Again, not enough time to get into it, but it's so key. Some of us come here, we change plans, and we don't align incentives with our people. Your people don't behave by what you tell them. They behave by what you incentivize. How am I doing? Okay? All right. Let me go down on this a little bit. My kids are on school holiday now, right? They started school holiday. My oldest started school holiday, I want to say June? No, Tuesday this week. My youngest went on school holiday yesterday. My daughter today. They're on school holiday. What is the problem with having children on school holidays? What do you imagine? Yeah? They are loitering. They are everywhere. Don't tell them I said this, but they're a nuisance. And every 5 minutes is, Daddy, can I please have, Daddy, can I please? Just go away. So, when I was growing up, my mother used to give me these things. You might have heard of them to the young people in the room. They're called chores. Chores are tasks that you perform without incentive. Is your job. We had chores when I was growing up. My mother was the queen of chores. My mother wrote a PhD thesis on how to do chores. My mother was so good at chores that she would give you a chore that would inspire you for the year. To never, ever want to get on my mother's bad side. The one year, so the home where I grew up with, this beautiful long driveway with these like long fern trees. You know those Christmas trees? But massive long fern trees. So when you drove into our home, it had this like cocooning effect. Beautiful long driveway. And my father had just passed and was school holiday. And my mother decided we needed chores. So what does my mother do? She goes to the local quarry and she buys these small limestones. And she says, between my brother and I, that we have the role and responsibility of filling the driveway with these limestones. Now, what might you imagine is the problem, comrades? Well, when the truck arrived to deliver these stones, it delivered them in a mound, one big mound. And my mother doesn't believe in automation, which means we manually had to move the stones from the mound into a wheelbarrow, wheel them up the driveway, drop them off, and then level them. I challenge you to try this. First, it's a stone. So you take a shovel, and you take the shovel, and you jab it into the mound. It's not sand. The shovel's not going in. It's going to stop. Then you've got to, so you get a little bit and drop it. And that's just to fill up the wheelbarrow. Then you've got to walk these arduous meters to get to the other end, because if you're intelligent, you don't want to drop the stones at the beginning, because then you have to go over the stones to get to the end. My mother had us do this. Anthony, I think I was like 15. It took us 2 weeks. I say us, my younger brother and I. And the little bastard didn't do any work. You know the youngest ones are always shit. He didn't do any work. He just sat there doing commentary. You're doing it wrong. Footsack. And then he would go into the house and cry about, I don't know, breaking a nail. And then he gets to get the rest of the day off. That's why he's like 4 complexions lighter than me. You see? Yes, sis. So I don't like light people. Where are the light people? All of you are bastards, you light people. We don't want you here. Anyway, so my brother and I do this for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, my mother comes to us and feels a new sense of inspiration. And she says, I don't like these limestones. I'm going to buy some cement and Crete so that we can live. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this 2 weeks ago? So my kids are on holiday, and I'm thinking, how do I give my kids a limestone? It's such a beautiful thing about being a parent. How do I punish these little bastards? How do I show them I love them with some pain? So we develop a system of chores. My oldest knows he's got to water the garden. He's got to tend to the outside. We've got a beautiful monster bully in the house, big dog. She's about this big. Her name is Allegro. You know you've made it as a black person. You give dogs human names. And so we've got a beautiful monster bully called Allegro. His job is to make sure that he cleans after Allegro's poop, that he cleans the pool, that the pool is sparkling and clean. His job is the outside. My daughter, she's got her set of chores. My youngest, his chore is to be a chore to his brother and sisters. But how do I get them to do this? Not by putting down what the instruction is, but by creating a system of incentives so that when they do the thing, there's an incentive. In our home, we run a point-based system, and 100 points convert to a certain amount of money, and they get that amount of money in credits on their bank account. And when they withdraw that money from the bank account, I charge a 20% tax. This is true. I'm not even lying. That's actually how it works. I'm not even lying. So my kids have an incentive system. My daughter knows, or my son knows, that if she washes the dishes and my son dries, these are different credits. The person who washes the dishes gets 35 credits. The person who dries them only gets 25 credits. Why? Because drying is easier than washing. They're well aware of this. They're also aware that if they wash their own school socks, they get 40 credits. If the maid washes it, they lose 20 credits. So we'll ask the helper in the house, who washed the socks, you or the kids? My son knows that if he goes to school with shoes that are not polished, he loses 20 points. And the number of points converts to credits, credits converts to money. When they withdraw from their bank account, I take a 20% tax. So I don't get my kids to do the right thing by telling them. I get them to do the right thing by creating a system of incentives that drives the behavior. Are we following each other? Yes? Right. Hands up in the room if you have a system of incentives for the people that work for you. Do you see what the problem might be? So maybe one of the things you want to do when you leave here is to ask yourself, who's in my team and how do I incentivize them? Now, the reason it says align incentives is because you also have to make sure the incentive drives the business goal that you want. That the incentive drives the business goal that you want. I'm going to skip over this a little bit because we're chasing time. I'm going to skip over this a little bit. And I want to get to this. That's okay. This is just me showing you that I over-prepare as one does. Great. So what do you need to do when you leave the business? Let's talk about some tools that you can use in your companies when you leave here. What do you need to do? First, any of you here who've done the business model canvas? Hands up in the room? Right. So the first thing you're going to do, those of you who've not, is you're going to go and do a canvas for your business. What does a canvas look like? It looks something like this. it forces you to ask yourself the question, right? And you'll notice some of the work we would have done earlier. Who are the key partnerships you need for your business? What are the key activities you need to perform? And what resources do you need to perform those activities? If you do that properly, that's a day's worth of work, I assure you, if you do it properly. Another thing I like to advise people to do, never take a model and complete it in a day. You need to take a model and do half of it, then go to bed. You ever notice how when you go to bed and you're lying and you're staring at the ceiling, things tend to crystallize? Sometimes it happens to me when I'm in the shower alone, where like things just come to me and they crystallize. You missed the alone part. But what I encourage people to do is to always do a third or half of something, leave it overnight, let it simmer, and then come back to it. I think you guys here have nyama choma. I know in Kenya they have this. In South Africa we call it the braai. But you know that the meat that is cooked or barbecued over fire always tastes better the next day. Doing model work is a lot like this. The next day, your brain is a lot clearer. So you want to start with key partnerships, activities, resources, value propositions, customer relationships, segments, channels. You would have done a lot of this in that business model. So the first thing I'm challenging you here to do when you leave is to go and do your business model canvas. The second is to think about your business from a lean startup model. This is Eric Ries's work. And he says you've got to think about 3 things when you're building a business. What you've got to think about is the idea, and from that idea, the product, and from that product, what data are you going to collect? This is especially true if you're still early. What's the idea? And between the idea and the product, you want to spend the least amount of time building it. Between the product and the data, you want to sell the product and then measure what information you're getting. To be clear, you need to know what you're going to measure. And then lastly, you want to think about between the idea and the data, how do you make that process as lean as possible so that more data you get, the better your ideas become. The more data you get, the better your ideas become. Let's just get a sense in the room. How many of us are still paying attention? How many of us here are still getting value? How many of us are not going to put up their hands no matter what I say? I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, it's because you are racist, you. Yeah. And then, let's talk a bit about scale now. Any economists in the room? Where are the economists in the room? This is me really trying to impress the economists. This is a long-run average costs graph. It basically shows what we call in business the economies of scale. When you hear, as you did earlier, from some of the other panel members, some of them kept talking about economies of scale. In other words, you want to get to a point where you're producing a volume where your business becomes more efficient as you're producing that volume. So it's about averaging your costs. Why is this important? Creatives in the room, let's come back together. Take the right hand. Creatives, over our chest. Repeat after me. I swear I will not panic. Okay, great. Creatives in the room, I prepared something to make a point. It's a series of graphs. I'm going to really simplify them. Here's what I prepared. I looked at, Anthony, you're going to love this. I looked at all of the data of mergers and acquisitions over a period of 30 years. My thesis was I wanted to prove that even big companies want to get bigger. So don't be a small business. If you didn't hear that, I'm going to say it again. Do not be a small business. Avoid it as much as you can. Did you guys have lockdown during COVID? Did you have lockdown? Right. I beg your pardon? The longest. No, I'm not going to comment here. I'm quiet. I don't want to get involved. Now, for the entrepreneurs in the room, how many of you here were asked by the government how long you wanted COVID to be? Hands up. Or how long you wanted lockdown to be? Hands up. How many of you here were asked if you want lockdown? Hands up. How many of you here were told before lockdown that there was going to be a lockdown? Hands up. I promise you, you don't work in small businesses, right? My point is made. Here's why you should never run a small business. When you run a small business, nobody consults you. Think about what I just said. No one consults. In South Africa, here's what happens. The government will go and meet with the labor unions. Then they'll go and meet with the financial sector, the banks, the insurance companies. Then they'll go and meet with the other politicians. They'll even go and meet with the civic organizations, the non-profit organizations, the public benefit organizations, but they will never call a meeting with entrepreneurs. Why? Because you are so small that your individual voice doesn't matter. So, I don't know about you, I like my voice to matter, which means my number one drive in building a business is to get bigger. Get bigger. Let's have a look at those numbers again. Let's have a look at those numbers again. Anthony, you're going to love this, man. Like, this is really impressive shit. Check this out. This is data from Statista. This is the number of acquisitions and mergers in the world between the year I was born, 1985, and last year, 2023. What do you notice? There is a constant build-up, gets to a boom, and it drops. Do you see that? Then another build-up, and it drops. Another build-up, and it drops. But you know what else you should notice? Is these booms are aligned to events you all know about. The year 2000 was that thing we called the dot-com bubble. Yes? The year 2007, the global financial crisis. Yes? The year 2017, any takers? What happened in 2017? And then what happened in 2020? COVID. Markets consolidate. That's how markets work. So you are in a market now that's about to do the same thing again. So what's your job? Get big. Get so big that you are the one buying someone or someone is buying you. But whatever you do, don't stay small. Because what this data doesn't show is that actually what happens is as big companies get bigger, small companies die at a higher rate because they can't compete. Even if I benchmark these two numbers against each other, look at 1985 to the year 2000. Only 39,000 mergers and acquisitions happened. Now watch, another period between 2002 and 2021, 58,000. More mergers and acquisitions over time. Bigger companies are buying more bigger companies and they're doing more deals. Whatever you do when you leave here, do not stay small. If you want to compare them on a like-for-like basis, it looks something like this. So what's the point? Get big. Get big. This is so important. I wish somebody told me this. I'm actually being honest here. I'm not making a joke. There's some of you in this room who look like you are very, very young. I'm talking late teens, early 20s. If somebody told me when I was your age what I'm telling you now, I would have been 10 years ago where I am today. It took me 22 years of business to figure this out. So for some of you, it's going over your heads. Take this message in. I wish. The first time I traveled to Uganda, 2007, 2008. I stayed at a small B&B somewhere. I'll never forget. The host who invited me here had traveling on a Bora Bora. That's how I know those guys live on the edge of life. I would love to see them make Top Gear Kampala. I don't think that would go very far. So the point I'm making is this. That was the first time I came here. I wish somebody told me then what I'm telling you now. I would have approached my business the way I'm approaching it now. Now my approach in my business is get as big as possible, as quick as possible. And if I can't scale it, I don't do it. So it's not just getting into business and doing well, but it's also scaling it. It's also scaling it. Harrison, I'm sure you're going to fix that issue on the screen. I'm not sure what's going on there. So it's not just getting into business and doing well, but it's also scaling it. And scaling it is important. Now, what might scale look like? For some of us in this room, scaling your business means getting more customers. In my